This is Mac OS Ken.
Apple's next shareholder meeting is set. Everybody's worried about App Store commissions and a slew of new games for Apple Arcade. It is Monday, the 13th of January, 2025. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSCan. Apple shareholders, listen up. Your attention is requested bright and early at 8 a.m. Pacific on Tuesday, the 25th of February. Actually, Apple might be fine if you paid no attention, come to think of it. Still, a piece from Mac Rumors says that is the day the company will hold its annual shareholders meeting for 2025. If you want to try to buy your way in now, you are too late. The piece says the meeting is for shareholders of record as of the 2nd of January 2025. Also, there is no inn into which to buy your way. As it's done since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the meeting is video/remote. Mac Rumors says shareholders can attend, vote, and submit questions during the meeting by logging into Apple's virtual meeting website 15 minutes before it kicks off. Orders of business include re-electing Apple's board of directors, approving executive compensation, and ratifying Ernst & Young LLP as Apple's public accounting firm. There will also be votes on shareholder proposals, and that may be the part on which Apple is fine with you hitting snooze. A piece from 9 to 5 Mac says investors will vote on 4 outside proposals at next month's annual shareholders meeting. Apple is urging shareholders to vote against those proposals, including one that calls on the company to end its diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. The conservative think tank putting forward the proposal says diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives pose litigation, reputational, and financial risks to companies, and therefore financial risks to their shareholders, and therefore further risks to companies for not abiding by their fiduciary duties. Apple urges shareholders to vote that down, arguing that the proposal inappropriately attempts to restrict Apple's ability to manage its own ordinary business operations, people and teams, and business strategies. Other shareholder proposals Apple would like to see voted down include a report on ethical AI data acquisition and usage. Apple says the info requested is already included in the company's responsible AI principles as well as its AI data privacy practices, and besides, the proposal doesn't raise any specific issues with Apple intelligence, according to Apple, but instead concerns itself with OpenAI, a service Apple users are free to use or not use. Next, a report on costs and benefits of child sex abuse material identifying software and user privacy. Apple says it is committed to helping protect children and will continue to do so without the universal surveillance suggested in the proposal. Such surveillance could have serious implications for Apple users' human and civil rights globally, according to the company. And finally, a report on charitable giving. The company has a well-established corporate donations program that follows a strict internal governance and approval process, according to Apple, and the proposal attempts to inappropriately restrict Apple's ability to manage its own ordinary business operations and business strategies. Another case over Apple, the App Store and commission fees, gets underway today. Apple Insider says the Cupertino company will defend itself in a case before the UK's Competition Appeal Tribunal, seeking as much as the equivalent of $1.83 billion US in damages. At issue, whether Apple runs the App Store as an illegal monopoly, and whether prices paid by consumers are unfairly inflated so that developers can cover the commissions that they have to pay Apple. The case is expected to last about 7 weeks, according to the report. Parties in the UK aren't the only ones worried about App Store commissions. A piece from Apple 3.0 has Needham and Company analyst Laura Martin concerned as well, but for a totally different reason. Basically, she's worried that those commissions are going to go away, leaving Apple less jingle in its jeans. According to her note, what was most different about CES this year versus last year, in her firm's view, was that many hardware makers they saw are planning to embed small language models of about 70 million data points directly into their hardware, rather than use an app on a smartphone with a 30% fee by Apple or Android. For example, a smart bike maker they saw will build a small language model that will track and learn from your favorite bike rides, paths, habits, etc., and give you recommendations. If this hardware structure is adopted by consumers, writes Martin, app aggregators like Apple, Android, Roku, Samsung, LG, etc. will become less valuable over time. I'm thinking the thing that should keep Apple investors from freaking out over this idea is Martin's use of the term over time. I kind of want to blow the note off, but it's actually a really interesting idea. Apple 3.0 doesn't list a rating or a price target for Martin on Apple. Back in September, which is the last time I saw a rating or price target from her, Martin had a buy rating on the Cupertino company's shares and a price target of $260. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg apparently did a 3-hour interview with Joe Rogan to end the week last week. There, according to a piece from 9 to 5 Mac, he talked smack about Apple, complaining about the fact that the Meta Ray-Ban glasses can't have the same access to iPhone and iOS as Apple's own AirPods, complaining about the I'm sorry, is it 2020 again? Complaining about the commissions Apple charges in the App Store, and, perhaps most annoyingly / amusingly, saying that Apple hasn't invented anything new in 20 years. Sort of quoting him, I guess, Zuckerberg is said to have said, Apple has used the iPhone to put in place a lot of rules that I think feel arbitrary. I feel like they haven't really invented anything great in a while. It's like Steve Jobs invented the iPhone, and now they're just kind of sitting on it 20 years later. During Fireball's John Gruber reacted to Zuckerberg's words, saying what's really rich about Meta and Zuckerberg's incessant complaining about being restricted by Apple's rules for third-party software on Apple platforms is that Meta doesn't allow third parties any sort of access to their successful platforms. There are no third-party clients for Facebook, Instagram, Threads, or WhatsApp. It is very hard to get any information out of them, let alone integrate with them bidirectionally. Without digging even that deep, Chance Miller at 9 to 5 Mac pointed out, let us also not forget that Meta has never invented anything great. Oculus was an acquisition, WhatsApp was an acquisition, Instagram was an acquisition, and intermixed with those acquisitions are features copied and pasted from other platforms. Some headline I saw someplace said Zuckerberg has entered his Silicon Valley provocateur phase. Really, though, he just sounds like another whiny rich guy to whom life has been terribly unfair or something. Dink. One of last year's early rumors is coming to fruition. Mac Rumor says Apple has announced a new retail location opening later this month at the Miami Worldcenter complex. Not the first we've heard of this. It was in March of last year that an unconfirmed rumor had the Cupertino company planning a one-story standalone retail building for the 27-acre mega development in downtown Miami. Close to a year later, rumor confirmed. The store's design is said to lean on nature and creativity. Interestingly, Apple's most florid description of the store comes not from the store's site, but from an Apple Music playlist put together to celebrate the new digs. Created from the ground up to reflect Apple's values, the playlist description says, Miami Worldcenter is Apple's most sustainable store, centered on universal design principles while creating an inviting space where everyone is welcome. In that spirit, we put together a playlist featuring some of Miami's favorite Latin music stars to help us celebrate the store's opening. You can find the playlist, Apple Miami Worldcenter, on Apple Music. There are also celebratory wallpapers for iPhone, iPad, and the Mac available on the new store site. As for the store itself, it opens in just under 2 weeks. Apple's 10th store in the Miami area will welcome its first visitors at 10 a.m. Eastern on Friday, the 24th of January. And finally today, if you're looking to distract yourself or while away the hours, Apple Arcade got a slew of new titles late last week. iDownload blog says Apple's subscription gaming service picked up 6 games last Friday, including Final Fantasy Plus, a remastered 2D take on the original, Skate City, New York, a skateboarding experience featuring iconic real-world skate spots. It's literally just mowing Plus, bringing casual Zen experiences, Rodeo Stampede Plus, a Wild West adventure title, Three Kingdoms Heroes, the latest in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms series, and Trials of Mana Plus, a mobile version of the console action RPG from Square Enix. Now, I guess I should have said 6 games and another one. While each of the aforementioned titles should be playable on Apple Vision Pro, another new game was released specifically for Apple's headset. According to iDownload blog, Gears and Goo combines elements of tower defense and classic base building games with the interactive possibilities of the Vision Pro headset. After a 1-month free trial, Apple Arcade is available as a standalone subscription for $6.99 per month. It also comes bundled with the Apple One subscription offerings. macOS Can, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macoscan. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macoscan.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.